Right, let's jump straight into this explainer. We really need to talk about why the summer of 2026 has suddenly become the absolute ultimate stress test for the entire AI hype cycle. I mean, for the last few years, we've basically been running on pure momentum, right? But right now, we're seeing these grand, massive ambitions finally colliding with cold, hard reality.
So today, we're mapping out this whole ecosystem reality check across three critical pillars: the financial limits with SpaceX's massive IPO, the geopolitical boundaries drawn by Canada's sovereign compute strategy, and finally, the product reality via Meta's major infrastructure bottleneck.
All right, kicking things off with number one, the financial stress test, and specifically, SpaceX's historic IPO gamble.
Just try to wrap your head around the sheer scale of this number for a second. $1.75 trillion. That's a T. SpaceX is out there asking the market for $75 billion at a fixed price of $135 a share. But here's the real wild departure from normal Wall Street convention. Up to 30% of this offering is uniquely reserved for retail investors. Now you gotta wonder, is that a deliberate signal of massive confidence, or is it just incredible leverage?
And the contrast here, it's literally staggering. At that $1.75 trillion valuation, SpaceX wants nearly 94 times its trailing revenue. Compare that to the previous IPO record holder, Saudi Aramco, which priced at roughly 19 times earnings. SpaceX is essentially stepping up and demanding that public markets completely ignore the current income statement and just purely price in the AI infrastructure of tomorrow.
Now, this perfectly captures attention for institutional investors right now. Look, Starlink is this phenomenal bright spot, posting a $1.19 billion profit just last quarter. But then you drop down a line, the AI division is burning absolutely massive amounts of cash, triggering an overall net loss of nearly $5 billion for the company last year. It's wild.
But here's where the math gets, well, kinda gritty. If you run a standard discounted cash flow analysis, basically estimating the present value of future cash, Morningstar lands on a valuation of $780 billion. That is 55% below SpaceX's target. So this IPO is absolutely the ultimate litmus test for the entire $3.7 trillion AI wave hitting public markets. Will investors validate this super aggressive narrative, or are they going to stick to the cold reality of traditional math?
Okay, moving over to number two, the geopolitical stress test, looking at Canada's brand new sovereign compute strategy.
Prime Minister Mark Carney anchored this entire announcement with an incredibly sharp quote. "This is a strategy any sentient country is taking. This is fundamentally strategic." What he's doing here is honestly vital. He's taking what could so easily sound like defensive protectionism, and he's completely reframing it as just basic, necessary strategic competence. So what actually makes up this AI for all strategy? Well, backed by over $2 billion, the core pillars include building a world-leading public supercomputer, scaling up these massive 100-megawatt data centers, and even offering free AI literacy training to all Canadians. Aligning with the recent Cohere ALF Alpha merger, this strategy treats compute independence, specifically moving away from US-dominated infrastructure, as a strict national security mandate.
But, and there's always a but, right? Critics immediately pointed out a glaring hole in the blueprint. The guardrails are incredibly thin. Like, sure, they've successfully built this super ambitious adoption strategy, but they completely lack a robust safety framework. This adoption-first approach, it's gonna hit a severe reality check the very second the first major AI-related harm story breaks inside Canada.
Which brings us to number three, the product stress test. Let's talk about Meta's $145 billion API problem.
Bringing this reality check all the way down to the developer level, Meta completely shocked the market back in April by raising its 2026 capital expenditure forecast to a staggering $145 billion. That revision instantly dropped their stock over 5%. I mean, spending that kind of money obviously requires massive commercial returns, but it's happening while Meta is inexplicably failing to release their crucial Muse Spark developer API.
If we actually track this timeline, you see a pipeline completely bottlenecked by bugs. The model launched on the Meta app in April, and they announced the API as coming soon. May came and went. Targets totally missed due to software bugs. Now we're in June, and there's still no firm launch date set. Remember, Meta literally canceled their behemoth model last year over similar struggles. They reorganized everything to avoid repeating that exact mistake. And yet, here we are.
Why is this delay so incredibly damaging? Well, it all comes down to architecture. This is a massive departure from Meta's highly successful Llama family. Llama models are open weights, meaning the core files are publicly released for anyone to just grab and tinker with. But Muse Spark is proprietary. Because those files are locked away in a vault, external developers are completely shut out of building with it until that API key is finally released.
And here's the absolute vital takeaway for us today. Benchmarks do not build ecosystems. APIs do. Meta's internal numbers might show MuseSpark beating the competition all day long, but a closed model with no API is just an internal tool. Every single week this gets delayed gives competitors like OpenAI and Anthropic free time to deepen their own critical relationships with developers. It's a huge missed opportunity.
Finally, number 4. The future needs guardrails. Our reality check is complete. To tie all these interconnected pieces together, the summer of 2026 is proving to be a massive wake-up call. Grand ambitions are just forcefully slamming into the limits of capital, national borders, and actual software deployment. As we watch the SpaceX order book fill up over the next 7 days, we got to leave you with the defining question of the year. When you look at the astronomical numbers required to build this future, is the market buying the math or the multi-trillion-dollar narrative? That answer is literally going to dictate the future of technology for the next decade. Thanks for joining me on this explainer. I'll catch you next time.